And for my next trick, hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for another legacy video, and today Jack has asked us to saw some creatures in half. So this is a very cool meme card that has the potential to do some really broken stuff. And it even saw a little bit of CEDH play, I think, where people were trying to saw in half dock sides. So you destroy a creature, but if that creature dies, its controller makes 2 token copies of that, except their base power is half of that creature's power, and their base toughness is half of that creature's toughness, and you round up each time. And we are going to try to abuse this a little bit today, playing a card that we recently did pretty well with, Pyrogoyf. Now, what is going to happen if you saw in half your various goyf-based creatures? Well, they have abilities that just set their power. So I believe what's going to happen is that we are just going to end up with 2 regular-sized Pyrogoyfs and then get 2 sets of those triggers. And we are going to get an absurd amount of value in that capacity. We'll test this in a second just to be sure before we get going with the league. But we can also do some things like saw our initiative creatures in half to get some very crazy acceleration through the Undercity. So we would probably get 1 from playing it, 1 from the next turn, and then 2 from the saw in half, and then all of a sudden 1 more turn later, we are just doing Throne of the Dead 3, fishing out something like a Fury from our deck list. Oh yeah, and like, by the way, since we round up, we could do something like turn 1, Dark Ritual, evoke a Fury, saw it in half, and end up with 2 2/2 double strikers in play that cleared whatever creature our opponent played on the first turn. Now, Jack's initial deck list also had Nether Goyfs in it, and Jack's initial deck list did not have Ancient Tomb and City of Trader. I think you need some amount of soul lands in the deck. Maybe you don't max out on all 8, since you are also playing Dark Ritual, which is another way to bridge to 4 mana, but I think you need some amount of soul lands, and these decks tend to be roughly 50% mana, which we are doing. A little bit of a downside is that Saw in Half isn't a standalone card. Oh, there's new art for this. Neat. At least I'm pretty sure this is new art. Yeah, this is new art because the other one is like the carnival guy. Yeah, anyway, this is not a standalone card. It is incredibly powerful when paired with something else, but sometimes, you know, you might have a 1 ring and Saw in Half, and then it's not going to work together well. Broadside is going to be a way to turn these extra token copies into direct damage, and we conceptually love the idea of copying and otherwise sawing in half our Pyrogoyfs. So let's do a quick rules check, make sure I'm correct about how these Pyrogoyfs work. Okay, so let's check this out. I have just kind of intentionally gotten the game to the point where we can put a Pyrogoyf into play. So we play a Pyrogoyf. It has base power 3, so we'll go ahead and deal 3 damage here and pass the turn. Let's saw in half our Pyrogoyfs, which are currently 3s. They are in fact bigger than they were a second ago because we added instant to our graveyard. Now take a look at this. We have 4 Pyrogoyf triggers because each one of the Pyrogoyfs entered, and then each one of the Pyrogoyfs saw the other one enter. So at 4 power, this is 4, 8, 12, 16 power, and this is something that you can do relatively quickly. This is sweet. Now, as far as the sideboard goes, the way that Jack submitted it, the left-hand column here is kind of the stuff that you can do versus combo and graveyard-oriented deck lists, and the right side is fair things that you can board in to remove opposing permanents. So we're not always going to need our soul lands in these post-sideboard games if we do something like theoretically board in all of these, but we really want to have access to the soul lands in game 1 to power out our powerful creatures. And while I'm normally not the sort of person to ask this, please leave me likes, leave me comments on these videos. I lost a week worth of income to the hurricane and I need to start working on making that back. So that sort of engagement that will boost this video is very much appreciated. And speaking of the bills, TOAmagic.com is one of my sponsors and they are an awesome store. Should you need some Magic cards, especially for MagicCon Vegas, go to their site, use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on your order in the first place, And you can place an order, have it delivered to you in Vegas. You just select, I think it's, on-site pickup, and then you don't have to run around the site looking for those last couple of cards for your deck, and it saves a lot of stress. With that being said, I am looking forward to sawing in half some creatures. Hopefully it lines up a handful of times throughout the video. Okay. I have lands and spells, but I think this hand is just too slow for Legacy, especially considering how much fast mana is in this deck. And I have the same thing to say about this hand. When we start getting to 5 cards, I'll start thinking about keeping hyper fair hands. Lotus Petal probably goes back here. I don't know, maybe I need that to power up Caves of Chaos Adventurer to have a reasonable hand. I don't like this. This is always going back. I have 3 basics in the deck, I believe, with how I constructed it. I do. That's what I have to say here. Ooh. That's not the worst. This is real spooky, though. I wish that I had Pyrogoyf rather than Caves here, but I think Caves is the one that you keep on its own. I am going to do a fetch to thin here. That is not what I want right now. So conceptually, my plan, I think, involves scrying next turn. I think we need to scry into something like a Pyrogoyf or Fury and help clear the board. This turn could be fucking wild. I hate it. That's immediately going to bring us to 17. And then a Repurposer is going to deal a lot of damage to us because it's going to be 2 damage from the spawn and then 2 damage from the Repurposer itself. So I am just very close to dead already. Just no combat damage being involved. Like Fury killing both of these would be huge. Let's scry. No to Dark Ritual. What about Saw in Half? Saw in Half gets me to Catacombs and Throne of the Dead 3 the following turn. If I wasn't under this degree of pressure, I think that would actually be acceptable. I think I need to swing higher though. Oh shit, it is a Pyrogoyf. That helps. There's some awkwardness here with the Caves of Chaos Adventurer trigger, assuming that I do attack. I don't think I am attacking though. I really want to, but I think I am just gonna hold the fort down, because if I attack, that just gives Eldrazi Repurposer a chance to block, and then that is another point of damage, or potentially 2 points of damage if I don't play the Pyrogoyf pre-combat. Oh, fuck me. Though it spawns. That's not good. Did my opponent mess up by not using the graveyard-oriented mode? They do the graveyard-oriented mode. They can remove both of these, leave this with 1 power, keep their Fleshraker. All right, how do I feel about the attack? 1 point of damage. I think I need to hold both of these back. My opponent could just take the 5 and then swing back for a couple of points of damage on me. I think I'm dead regardless. Just the initial opening hands did not look strong. I think it is too easy for my opponent to just burn me out and be a Gaia's Cradle. Nope, I'm at 1. Any other creature kills me. So I can play Molten Collapse and Fatal Push as additional creature-based removal. The Saw in Halves are conceptually good here, like Saw in Half on Fury, Saw in Half on Pyrogoyf. I wonder if I get rid of my Broadsides or some removal. And by that, I mean efficient removal, mana-wise. I think I'm going to do that. This means I'm a little worse at closing out games. This has 1 mana source, so that is not doing it. This has no actual lands. Deck is not being kind to me. This is actually not that bad. So I keep this, I get rid of a Fury, and I get rid of 1 Saw in Half. We do this for 3 life, cast Dark Ritual, cast a Goyf, and pass. My creature probably connects on this first turn. So send in for 1, mill 1 card. Yes, it's a land. These now grow. And at my opponent's end step, I will saw this in half and get 2 copies of it. Yeah, so in response to that, I'll saw my creature, and my opponent will take my Caves of Chaos Adventurer. These are now 2, 3, 4 Death Touchers. The Ancient Tomb is not great, but we're going aggro. All right, my opponent just takes all of it. Mill 3 cards, yes. I'll take a Pyrogoyf. Mill 3 cards. Yes. Ooh, I'll take a Fury. Okay. I think I'm okay just trading those 2 cards for Thought-Knot and taking a redraw here. A black creature or like a 1 ring would be really cool. Well, that's at least red mana. Okay, like we're doing a powerful thing here. I don't believe I found room to conceptually squeeze in a Surveil land. I'm just going to hold that land accordingly. Hello, Ancient Tomb. I'm glad you're here. It's nice to see you. So it's exile a creature and make some spawns. The spawns can chump block. I don't gain the life though, because my opponent will just sacrifice them before damage. I will play 1 of these. I will probably hold the second before looting to a Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Well, now I might play them. This is a kicked Sowing Myco spawn, unfortunately. An Eye of Ugin here is really spooky, because my opponent is heavy on mana. Yikes. I think I'm a goner. I think this does it. Unless it doesn't, though. So we are probably going to see the same play pattern again of block and sacrifice immediately. Oh, shit, my opponent. Oh, right, the fucking protection. I got so excited by my own One Ring. I think I am taking damage here and leaving my mana available. And we are going to have dueling One Rings. I'm not paid off for leaving my mana available, unfortunately. I think my opponent is favored in this position. I'm at the higher life total. I just don't know that that matters. Oh my god. What a disaster. That is kicked with both of them. So that bounces a creature, my creature token, and exiles my One Ring. Fuck me. Yeah, this is target opponent, so my opponent doesn't get to see my fun toy. We are going to do the marginal thinning here. I need hot draws. Ooh, buddy. I think this time I don't take damage. I think every point of life is likely to be relevant here. So let's protection from everything. I'll draw my card. Okay, maybe I can bleed my opponent to death with their own One Ring. Can this exile your own stuff? And opponent controls. No, so it can't exile your own copy of the One Ring. The Eye of Ugin here gives my opponent a lot of flexibility. Will you die to your own One Ring? Are you just gonna like exile both my bad lands and make me sad? Ooh, no colored permanent here. Yeah, that's just a 4/4. Just a 4/4. All right, I take some damage. I draw some cards. So in theory, I play the One Ring, playing Swamp, taking 2, going to 14, and then I can play Caves of Chaos Adventure afterwards. That sounds good. Yeah, that sounds good. So 2, it's going to be 1 and 2. Keep this one. I'll draw my card now in case that changes my play. I don't think it will. That's interesting. I don't know that it matters, but it's interesting. Now the damage is not relevant anymore. We might win this one yet. I made my land drop. We'll pass. So in theory, my opponent dies to their copy of the One Ring. They need to play a new copy of the One Ring, or kill me on my turn with something like a Glaring Fleshraker. Kozilek's Command. So that gets to scry relatively deep. They topped 5 of those cards. A Null Drifter or the Evoke. There's a Fleshraker. So this is not actually doing damage to me because of the protection from the One Ring. Molten Collapse is a sorcery, notably. Repurposer. I haven't mathed it out, but I assume that a Kozilek's Command kills me. We're gonna go to Lost Well and scry. Barrowgoyf goes to face. So this is, I'm just gonna count this as the 2 generic colorless for Kozilek's Command. Counting Yavimaya tap 1, 2, 3, or sorry, this is just 10, 11, and 12. So I need to not tap an Ancient Tomb here. That probably means just 1, 2, 3, 4, play Pyrogoyf. Let's put the Saw in half on bottom, despite the fact that it's super cool. 13, taking 12 from Fleshraker, in theory. Oh fuck, I don't think I counted the 1 from the cast of Kozilek's Command itself. Yeah, that is just lethal unless I draw an instant that removes Glaring Fleshraker, which I did not do. Lotus Petal was the other card here. That's unfortunate. Yeah, Molten Collapse being a sorcery and Pyrogoyf being sorcery speed removal does me in. GG's. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, and I could say all sorts of great things about them, but I'm just going to point to this number. I have 488 deck lists stored on this site. That should give you a feel for how I feel about this website. And if you were to go to my profile, you could see all the deck lists that I'm messing around with, including my EDH decks, and you can even see some of the deck lists I record with before they hit the channel. Ooh. This deck is 50% mana. I counted it out. So this is probably good enough to keep here. I don't have the best Saw in half targets right now. So I think this is the card that's going back. And we are a little bit reliant on Fable of the Mirror Breaker resolving next turn to have a reasonable game of Magic. And this is the downside of like trying to play a multicolor Ancient Tomb deck list rather than a monocolored Ancient Tomb deck list. Immediately punished for getting rid of the Saw in half. But we might see counter spells here. So let's Fable. I need this token to produce my 3rd mana so that I can play another Fable. Once we have 2 Fables going, like Fable and Broadside throwing tokens can be pretty good. Although we might just immediately get overpowered by, Entomb, Reanimate, and Psychic Frog isn't exactly a walk in the park either. All right, we have at least resolved. Broadside into Fury is also a thing. What's going on over there? Just Fetch. Huh? Bowmaster. Slightly annoying. So I have hit the One Ring. I can essentially attack and trade this for an Orc token plus 1 mana. Oh, this is so awkward. I think I'm just going to say no here and play another Fable. I could do some weird things involving a Fury, but I think we are in it for the long haul here. Days is great for my opponent there. Assuming that this stays alive, I can copy Fury in another couple of turns, and that will presumably do some gross stuff versus whatever my opponent is cooking over there. I think it's slightly more likely to be tempo than Reanimator. The Reanimator decks probably aren't finding room for main deck Bowmaster right now. Is Broadside worth playing? So I have a bunch of black cards in this deck. I'm not actually 100% to just like quickly redraw a red card for Fury. I think I'm just going to pass the turn. That's super weird. There's also a decent chance that my opponent just has another Daze here. Like, they are not playing creatures. They are not playing Entombs. So what is probably in their hand? Removal spells, counter spells. Tempo confirmed. New land drop. Big, thick Murktide Regent. Big, thick Murktide Regent. Theoretically killable via a Fury. That is copied. Yeah, this was exactly what I was talking about. Okay, so I guess let us attempt to do the thing. Fury. Pitch a broadside. I'm going to have 4 more damage here. So let's take out the Bowmaster while we're at it. Copy the Fury. Oh, damn, looks like everything is just working. That's lucky. This is going to be 6 damage. That was a surprising amount of stuff that all just worked out perfectly. No Brainstorm in response to casting the Fury that, okay. That is very strange to me. Another Goyf is quite small. Ooh, the Spellbomb's relevant. Love to draw another land and play this around Daze without using Lotus Petal. I don't. I think it is correct for me to use my mana. I think there's a decent chance that this gets dazed, but that Daze is going to be live all game. Like, I have so many 4-drops in this deck, and I am on 2 lands right now. A 5 and 49 chance at hitting a soul land. I could also hit Dark Ritual relevantly. That only shrinks my Goyfs by 1 since they added Artifact to their graveyard. A little more selection. Looks like another Murktide's happening already. If it is, it should probably happen post-combat for another Goyf attack. I'm at 15. Now Murktide will happen. Oh no, it's Psychic Frog instead. Sure. I'm actually in pretty good shape if I draw another land or a Dark Ritual. Like, we could reach a point where playing Pyrogoyf, going face, copying Pyrogoyf is just lethal. No blocks here. Oh fuck. The Pyrogoyf is gonna get messed up by Psychic Frog though, if my opponent's sharp. Oh man, that's actually a major downside. I have literally nothing in my graveyard due to the Spell Bomb. I also probably just die next turn, right? To Psychic Frog and Murktide Regent in the air. That puts a land to yard. I think I need to play the One Ring. This is still dazeable. Fuck yeah. Alright. So Psychic Frog fly. Plus discard cards is lethal. We were surprisingly close to putting that game together. All right, I don't really like Caves of Chaos Adventurer versus decks that can just take back the initiative super easily. At the point where I'm getting rid of that, Saw in Half probably doesn't make sense anymore, and we board in a bunch of stuff that allows us to play a slower game. I might be keeping 1 Saw in Half here to just round out my numbers. I might just keep 1 of these. I don't know, Saw in Half on Pyrogoyf is so effing cool. I can also like Saw in Half a Murktide Regent if push comes to shove. This I like. This just plays... Like, there's some tension between the sideboard Douthie Voidwalkers and the Goyfs here, but it's not like I expect this to stay around forever. Play on basics? I think play on basics. The Saw in Half goes under, then basic swamp into Voidwalker. Could see another Goyf on turn 1. It would be real small. We're more likely to just see a Ponder or a Tameo. I am going to just get another basic here. This is a small creature currently. Get forced. I got a Psychic Frog for my trouble. I am good with that. And we are going to just turn this sideways rather than hold back Force of Will. Like, the void counter on Force of Will is cool and all. I think this game is more about reducing my opponent's life total to 0. I can keep up with Tameo card advantage with my own copies of the One Ring. Tameo will make a clue. The Tameo is a lot less threatening without a graveyard there as well. That's cool. I think, though, we're going sorcery speed the One Ring while I have Force of Will available. It's good enough to get a Brainstorm in response, which will flip the Tamiyo, which means that I can attack it with Doughty Woodwalker and kill it. Not even willing to fight there. Let's assume sideboarding was perfect. Okay, I think I am in for this hand. So we can Fatal Push an early Tamiyo or Psychic Frog, and then start working towards other large goyf-based bodies. I don't know what goes under Chrome Mox here if I don't draw another card. I think this is the worst colored card in my hand. Yeah, it's a little surprising that is the case, but I believe that is true. So we're playing this one a little bit slower. Ooh, that was worth a Murktide Regent and a Force of Will to my opponent. So that land will represent the second point of increase for my goyfs. Daze is really fucking good against my deck, which is like not a good position to be in because Daze is one of the most played blue spells in Legacy. But this resolved, my opponent can probably just crack a clue on the end step here and then answer this on their own terms. The Tamiyo card advantage engine is real. Wasteland not doing anything at the moment, which is very good for me. Dark Betrayal, destroy target black creature. Wild. Which one? Bowmasters could be up this turn. I think I'm going to fetch my remaining basic here. I believe that's a swamp. I can honestly see arguments for both. I think I am going to just Pyrogoyf and attempt to kill the Tamiyo. Consign to memory. Okay. Good call. Good call. All right. Last card was not Bowmasters, so that's nice. My opponent can potentially just flip the Tamiyo this turn, though. And then get back Dark Betrayal. Brainstorm will flip it. Tamiyo will plus. Oh man, those basics are doing some serious fucking work right now. Well, my One Ring is going to resolve. That is the good news here. And I believe the One Ring is significantly better than playing Fable. So let's do it. Broadside. Broadside's kind of cool. My opponent has some clues, so like they're not as hellbent as they might appear. Broadside is a way to just nuke that Tamiyo. This can go to any target. That's not bad either. Let's draw now. If a Bowmaster is going to happen, I want to know about it in advance. All right. I only have one red mana, though. Makes multi-spelling very awkward in the short term. So, yeah. All right, redraw. Okay, looking good. Do I get to attack? No, Fatal Push stops that. We will pass turn here. I don't think I need to Fury immediately. Opponent's out of clues now. It's hard for them to play something like a Psychic Frog after casting another cantrip. That's a Tamiyo plus. I am currently on track to potentially deal with this. All right. Lose some life. Start by doing the Bowmaster check. This gets me second red. I'm a little bottlenecked on red mana. So we are going to play around Daze by casting a Dark Ritual. 4 and 5. We are going to hard cast a Fury. Please resolve. So that deals 4 to Tamiyo. I believe it is now worth it to pitch cast and just kill the Tamiyo and not let removal spells and stuff come back. I will find more cards with the One Ring. Okay, board's clear. Another goyf is a thing. Not really sure that I want to take 4 points of damage here. Like, I might be blocking this creature and just trading with it, even though my opponent could recast it. I think taking is just too much right now, because my One Ring might kill me in about 2 turns. If I didn't have 3 counters on the One Ring, I wouldn't even be thinking about blocking. But with that many counters on it already, I think saving that life matters a lot. Saw in half. We could maybe do something broken this turn. Woohoo! The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's pretty cool. Dark Ritual. City of Traders. I think Saw in half is next turn. Go Pyrogoyf first. So yeah, blow up the Nether Goyf, and I think play my Life Linker, and I leave the Saw in half for next turn while sending some damage at my opponent's face. So I think I now am going to outpace my own copy of the One Ring. Surveil land time. So what's in my opponent's hand? Could be like a Consign to Memory that's just not super castable. Toxic Deluge. Oh, opponent. Oh no. So my opponent did not pay an extra for sorcery. And so the way this works is my negative X effects don't kill the creatures directly. The next time state-base actions, state-base effects are checked, the creatures die for having negative toughness or 0 toughness. And so this is in the graveyard, changing the check count for these. I do want to just look at mine. Well, I've won the match, and honestly, that's what matters. Okay. I have a 2-lander, no ability to cast any of the spells in my hand. That is not going to do it. Land. From Mox, imprint a card. I don't even have a fucking black card to imprint to do Barrowgoyf. Oh my god. We're going to 5. Fully be willing to just YOLO the turn 1 Goyf. Oh, actually, I wouldn't have any cards in graveyard. Fuck. What does this hand do? 3 mana, turn 1 broadside, turn 2 broadside. I'm gonna need more, but this, I guess, has a plan. Does the plan involve me top decking well? Yeah, but it's got a plan. I do not expect to win this game. Someday we'll, keep a reasonable 7. I don't know, maybe Menace Creature into Menace Creature. Just, like, gets there. Eluded Delta Gamer over there. Lightning Bolt. DRC, Lightning Bolt. So Daze is a thing to be aware of, but we're so far behind at this point that I think I am just going to ignore it. Given the Saw and Half draw, I am going to fetch Badlands. My opponent wastelands a land anyway. It is almost certainly just going to be Ancient Tomb. It is my better land by far, given the resources that I am currently on. Yeah, we don't get to play around that right now. Okay, so we've probably lost this one. I will play it out for a little bit longer. We do have very, very powerful top decks here, and I would like to fully know what my opponent is playing. It's probably going to be something in the Grixis Delver ballpark, but seeing that third color and confirming that is valuable. That doesn't do anything right now. And this is where we see Saw in Half not being a singularly powerful card. You know, if this is another threat, while I'm still very far behind, I am in less bad shape. Yeah, I picked the right land. Take my love tap. That would have been castable this turn too. The DRC is still only hitting me for 1, which I guess I should be thankful for. Like, it's turn 4, and that thing has not gotten more powerful yet. Ooh, they might be straight blue-red. Okay, so 1 more counterspell and my opponent certainly wins. We can live the dream, right? Oh shit, it did resolve. I mean, maybe if we hit the perfects. What do we want? Fury, red card, Saw in Half would be pretty hot. That would do some things. I don't love the fact that my opponent topped a card there. With an empty graveyard, they're very, very heavily incentivized to just dump anything into the graveyard to work on this having Delirium. So if they are keeping cards, that's not great for me. Draw? Okay. We'll play a new one around Daze. So yeah, keep this one so I can draw immediately. That's not really what I'm looking for. Clinging to life like a cockroach here. Okay, seeing Thundering Falls has cemented in my mind that my opponent is blue-red and not Grixis. So the next question is, why do you want to be playing blue-red right now? Like, what should be in the back of my mind? Price of Progress is one. Unholy Heat, I guess, is another. And then a pile of sideboard Red Blasts and Pyroblasts is probably a third. All right, it's finally a 3-3. Oh, that Wasteland's real bad. That's very good on my City of Traders. That one has to attack. It has no choice. I wonder if there's an argument to, like, then playing the Ponder post-combat so that this stays untapped for things like Broadside. Oh, that was a lot of error. But I'm taking 9 going to 2 and I die to my own 1 ring. No use showing my opponent more cards then. All right, so we are probably boarding in the removal and the Douthie Voidwalkers. And the caves probably go out. Then did I go down on these? Not get rid of, but go down on them? Or was it Broadside that I didn't like? Broadside throwing treasures, not getting rid of Tameo and DRC once it's a 3-3 that's awkward. It's slightly less threat dense here, but I guess I am trying to play a pseudo control game, and then Saw in Half is my combo finisher. Question mark, question mark, question mark. Am I a joke to you, Moto Shuffler? Yeah, here we see some of the awkwardness of like Dark Ritual not being able to ramp out everything in the deck. I'm keeping this hand. I think I'm just going to do a Surveil land on turn 1. I think it's hard for me to keep this Saw in Half here. So my current plan is Surveil land, end of turn, look for more gas, and then probably cast Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Boggart Trawler is sometimes a spell here, sometimes it's Scrummox food. Unsure exactly. I think a bunch of our hands are kind of clunkers here for one reason or another. Not having cantrips to smooth is rough. I don't have a fucking Surveil land. I didn't think I could fit it into the deck. And I stand by that decision. I absolutely forgot that I didn't have one. So take your redraw. That's good. I now don't want to nuke the graveyard. I think my card just has to be Dazeable this turn. So let's do this. Then I can shock in this land next turn and play my Goyf. If the enchantment ends up going to the graveyard, the Goyf is thick. I think Lightning Bolt's gonna kill my token. Play a Ponder. Grow my Goyf. That is not a Ponder. Okay. So I am into discarding this one. That is going to grow my Pyrogoyf. I think I keep the land so that I can always play the Goyf with no risk associated with it. Ooh. So discarding cards for Psychic Frog may or may not actually save it from Pyrogoyf. think I'm jamming into days here. And in respect of a theoretical price of progress, I think I'm going to grab a basic. The Great Days if my opponent has it. I think it is correct to just jam this here, though. Like, I have the ability to copy it in the not too distant future. And if cards go into the graveyard, I would like those cards to grow the Pyrogoyf. That is a land. That is also a land. That is a creature. So that does not change the things for the Pyrogoyf. So this is a very large Psychic Frog. Hopefully I just get some Pyrogoyf copy Pyrogoyf action and I deal with this thing in that capacity. Oh, we're just getting, oh, it's gonna be a Murktide. Oh, this sucks. So that's a 5/5 Murktide with a 6/7 Psychic Frog. So my opponent can then exile the last 3 cards, fly in for 6, and I am just very close to dead. In good news, if I draw a removal spell, it's probably resolving. That is not a removal spell. So I can keep Psychic Frog from having flying. My Pyrogoyf is small now, and I can't chump block with Douthie Voidwalker to keep, like, Reflection of Kiki-Jiki copy Pyrogoyf nonsense. I think this is just the end. Nothing under there. I think I am blocking with Pyrogoyf and trying to believe in Reflection of Kiki-Jiki copying something. Not sure what that something is. Let's do the fetch to thin thing. 5 means that I'm still alive to Murktide Regent. Not with that draw, though. I think after I chump block to Psychic Frog another time, I just don't win. GG's. I'm physically unable to draw a keepable 7-card hand. 6-card hand looks reasonable. Don't force of will me is potentially, so like I can play this in the don't force of will me way where I just try to resolve turn 1 the One Ring, or I can just lead on Polluted Delta and keep 1 Chrome Mox and don't do a turn 1 play. That's probably the safer way to play this. So we're just going to lead Delta, pass. Sometimes this gets punished by something like a Vexing Bauble stopping me from casting Chrome Mox, but I can keep some flexibility in what I do with this hand if I wait. Plus, I am not really going to look like a Stompy deck immediately. So I believe that Pyrogoyf now goes under here, and Caves of Chaos Adventurer is the bait spell or something like a Daze. Everything that I do is going to be wastelandable, so let's see if we can take the initiative. Basic Island. All right. So this is digging for Force of Will or Daze if my opponent has Daze. Okay, cool. It did resolve. That's very good. I'm going to grab a basic Swamp since we have a bonus red source in Chrome Mox. So this is potentially a blue-white control deck of some kind. If that is the case, I don't really want to forge directly into Swords to Plowshares, so I will Lost Well, try to smooth out this hand, find some more threats, bottom any mana that we find. And boy, did we find mana. Pyrogoyf is not overly exciting, but we'll take it. Bloodstained Mire, sure. Go to 14. I will play this for the sake of value here, and I think just gem the One Ring. Yeah. The Caves resolved. We don't know what our opponent is playing for sure. You know, this could in theory still be a combo deck. I think it is just a blue-white control deck list. I don't know that I am going to sideboard at all. Like, Molten Collapse can destroy Planeswalkers if that's a thing that I need to do. I don't want Fatal Push. Douthie Voidwalkers are kind of whatever. Saw in Half is interesting to use in response to a removal spell. I think I am good just running back the main deck and hoping that it works. Shit, it is a keepable 7-card hand. Let's fucking go. This might be the first 7 that I've kept all league. Yeah, let's put the land into graveyard immediately for Swords to Plowshares purposes. I'll just do Badlands. My opponent has back to basics, they have back to basics, but I am sometimes running into colored pip bottlenecking, which definitely could happen with the One Ring and a City of Traders in hand. I think my opponent has a Force of Will, and they're debating whether or not they Force of Will this Dark Ritual, because things like Thoughtseize into Bowmasters or Thoughtseize into Douthie Voidwalker are a thing that a deck like mine could reasonably be doing. Not that knowing that changes anything, I still just jam here and probably get 2 for 1 by Swords to Plowshares. There's the fetch, and there's the swords. Second land drop, nothing exciting. I could just play a Broadside here. It could be on like Stifle Knot as well. The Broadside is just like not super exciting right now though. Like, I'm not throwing anything. My opponent can like answer that pretty easily at sorcery speed. I think I'm just going to do other stuff with my mana here. If my read on the potential Force of Will was wrong, that's fine. Like, this is hitting the One Ring rather than, sorry, this is hitting Dark Ritual rather than the One Ring, which is why I didn't play out like an Ancient Tomb first. So like we're actively good with this. So it was a Spell Pierce that my opponent was thinking about last turn. Third land drop, no Teferi or anything. Oh, I love that. I think I am Ancient Tombing here. I think I want to tap this land multiple times. Oh yeah, Snapcaster Spell Pierce, sure. Good on you, Snapcaster Mage. Honestly, I'm happy to see it. I am a very big Snapcaster Mage fan. Played a lot of it in Modern, and a decent amount of it in Legacy as well. I really enjoyed Dirtily Grixis control in paper games locally. I'll take my 2. Ooh. Are we gonna see something like a Jace here? Ooh, there is black mana. It's an actual factual fucking Jace the Mind Sculptor. I think I disagree with how my opponent just used their Jace though. I don't know their hand, but I think Jace bounce Snapcaster there is really, really good. Unless you have Force of Will, in which case this is fine. So let's attempt broad. Oh shit, they don't have anything. Nice. So cast Lotus Petal. Okay, it just resolves. Great. So attack Jace. Get Jace for 2. Throw Lotus Petal at Jace. Yeah, so they got a random card out of their Jace. And potentially there's something like a Triumph on top of deck. Stand still. Well, I'm going to do this. You can draw your 3. A whole bunch of cards if it resolves. Unlucky. Dovin's Veto, sure. New land drop, Timeless Dragon. So 5/5 flyer over there. This is not great for me. Saw in half, not a standalone card. Not want to saw in half either one of my opponent's creatures currently. Like it can temporarily fog some damage. Yeah, no. So now I can see that there's a graveyard sub-theme. And I can also see that getting creatures on board definitely matters. I'm kind of into putting these in the deck in some of the saw and half slots. And if my opponent has Jace the Mind Sculptor, this becomes more important. Might even like do that. I end up more threat dense than I was previously. It's awkward, but it's a keep. Turn 1 Fable and looting away the Furies is really good. Imprinting Dark Ritual and casting Dauthi Voidwalker is perfectly fine as long as I spike a mana source. And roughly half my draws are going to be mana sources. I'm not going to try to high roll here. Let's just play the Fury immediately. That's brutal. I've still got a follow-up play. I think if we lead on Dauthi Voidwalker, I just get Swords to Plowshared after a turn or 2, and it's pretty bad. Oh no, this doesn't work. Fuck. So if I lead on Dauthi, that maybe gets forced. Then I Chrome Mox Fury. Yeah, it is clunky trying to play these red cards with Dark Ritual. If I loot, like if I get to loot and I loot away, this is like also awkward. Like the Fury is very easily the worst card in my hand. But if I imprint that, then this is not castable. So that means I am imprinting this. And now I'm just like set up poorly versus Swords to Plowshares. I resolved at least. Oh shit, no immediate swords. That's nice. I'm just gonna get Teferi tempoed here. Oh no. Okay, this would be a huge time to just like hit a relevant card. Straight whiffs. Yeah, hitting a 3-drop creature that I could just immediately play would have been such big game there. It's another one, so we're not too far away from those coming back and being a nuisance. I can cast a Caves of Chaos Adventurer this turn. I guess that is in theory good. So, ooh, Barrowgoyf is so much damage right now. Yeah, I'll take one of those. So I want this to answer creatures that are played out. So I'm going to play a Caves of Chaos Adventurer into this open counterspell mana. But I think I'm fine trading with the card like that. Wasteland's relevant. Like, that knocks me off of Pyrogoyf immediately. Teferi's really good. The Pyrogoyf could kill Teferi immediately. I don't think that matters. I think I just replay my Barrowgoyf all at a turn. Are you creature or planeswalker? No, you are only combat damage to a player. Or Wasteland. This must be a blue-white control build that's Wasteland heavy to help out with the Eldrazi matchup. Yeah, there's Jace. Sure, that's going to minus this out of play. Yeah, these 2 Wastelands are potentially going to keep me from Pyrogoyfing. I can Fury if I have to. Oh, I actually did not want to do this. I want to have 1 extra land in my deck because I'd be happy drawing a land. So I'm going to start by recasting this, give my opponent a chance to Force of Will this. And then I think we just Fury pitching Caves and take out both Planeswalkers. Keep Pyrogoyf, answer Timeless Dragons. So the Fury traded evenly. This Goyf is huge. Like it kills in 2 turns on its own. Mystic Sanctuary. Targeting Brainstorm. Do you even? Yep. Okay, they do want it. That is a 3rd Timeless Dragon. That is a commitment to the bit, I suppose. I'm going to play this pre-combat so that this Timeless Dragon doesn't go to graveyard if my opponent blocks with it. Force of Will. I mean, I'll send in my Death Machine. I will gain my life. I assume that you have to block this, otherwise you are just in burn range from something like a Pyrogoyf. They disagreed. This also just gives me a chance to get another creature. Barrowgoyf is already lethal. I think I'm just going to take a castable Douthie Voidwalker. It is a creature with shadow. This is now a fucking 7/8. My opponent is now going to eternalize a creature in an attempt to do some chump blocky nonsense. Nothing with void counters yet. So yeah, I think I'm okay taking the 2-for-1. I have 2 just batshit insane 4-drops in hand and a shadow creature available to me. Opponent's build is neat. I don't know if good, but it is certainly neat. There is a Timeless Dragon in play. All I need is a mana source. That's a mana source. Dark Ritual or Pyrogoyf, 7 to face. Heyo. All right. Opening hand is awkward here. I don't have something good to saw in half. I could fling a Chrome Mox with Broadside. I have an okay amount of stable mana, and I'm on the draw, so I'm gonna get another card. I think this one is a little sketchy, but I have reasonable mana, and most of the non-mana cards in my deck are pretty reasonable here. Chalice on 1. Well, that just means my Dark Ritual goes under Chrome Mox. So we'll Chrome Mox, imprinting a Dark Ritual now. Am I ever destroying a land with you? Hard to tell as of right now. Probably not, though. I think I am just not going to lose the life in what might be a creature mirror. All right, it is another soul land and the One Ring. It's very good, but it's a copy of the One Ring where my opponent has Ancient Tomb as their only land in play, and that is a little bit less impactful, especially given how quickly I can pressure life totals. There's the card draw. The real question is, like, what does the rest of this deck look like? House of the Void is not usually seeing play in Eldrazi, so this is more likely to be a red deck, and we'll just kind of see how this goes. Like, if my opponent can play a broadside of their own, broadside throw their chalice at my broadside, then I Pyrogoyf their broadside, and then hopefully saw in half my Pyrogoyf. That many things in the graveyard for Pyrogoyf yet, so it's a little awkward. There also might be some interesting saw in half my broadside fling multiple thing lines available later this game. Spirit Guide. Why? What are you expecting to stop with that? Weird. I think we're doing this. Take the initiative. I'll grab a basic swamp in case Blood Moon becomes a concern at some point this game. I don't expect that it will. Swing in for 2. Opponent goes to 13. I can just throw this at their face for 6 immediate damage, and then like Pyrogoyf, throw Pyrogoyf for lethal. I think that's fine. Like this is so much damage. I don't think I can ignore that, given Ancient Tomb and the One Ring over there. This is 5. Which is probably effectively 3 or 1, depending on how you look at the next turn cycle here. Ah, it is an opposing Pyrogoyf. So my opponent is basically dead to their own cards at this point. I also have Trap if I forge up their Pyrogoyf, which is a little weird to do. I can probably win without getting cute like that. Yeah, no to all of that. I think they don't have a Chalice on 0. So mana source. Pyrogoyf. You come here expecting the Pyrogoyf mirror? That's 1, and then they're going to die to their own One Ring trigger. All right, fantastic. So I can think about the same 7 cards that I have thought about all league. My opponent's deck is going to be a smoother version of what I am doing. Like their mana is just going to be cleaner. They have more soul lands than I do. They have Spirit Guides instead of Dark Rituals. Saw in half is one of the more broken things that I can do, but it requires time. And I think time is something that I do not have. I think I am going to go 4 removal spells in when I am on the draw here. I'm going to keep Dark Rituals, even though my opponent might Chalice on 1 me. This is fine. This just plays the One Ring on turn 1 or 2. My opponent kept their 7 though, which probably means that they do something busted on turn 1. Yep. Okay, so they shut off my Dark Ritual, which means that I can't One Ring on turn 1. Okay, sure. I kind of just want to fucking Molten Collapse their Chrome Mox that they played out for no reason. Like, it's a massive punish to do so. But that slows down my game a lot. I think I am just going to Lotus Petal, Polluted Delta, and pass. And then when my opponent plays their first creature, I will fetch Molten Collapse and take out one of these 2 plus the creature, and then play the One Ring a little bit later. Sure. Yeah, so my opponent does not have more red mana. I have 4 lands for the One Ring. Okay, let's take out the Chrome Mox. Forces a loss of City of Traders if my opponent wants to play any creature. Heyo. That is a 3/4 Pyrogoyf. Fable's okay. I think the One Ring is just going to be better. Costs me my Lotus Petal, but it saves me at least 3 life next turn. Broadside answers Pyrogoyf next turn. I can potentially Broadside throw Fury as well. Kind of depending on what's going on over there. Oh, right. Yeah, no attack because the One Ring, duh. Okay, alrighty. Well, let's draw some cards and then evaluate where we're going. So do this. do this, and imprint the Dark Ritual. I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just cast a Fury, deal 4 damage to the Pyrogoyf, and that's pretty good. I think I am fine with that. If my opponent has some wonky instant, they can save their Pyrogoyf, but with Chalice on 1, doesn't make a ton of sense that that's actually going to happen. Big mana play of some kind. It is a 4/5 Pyrogoyf. And here we just see the One Ring just burying our opponent in cards. Oh, that's insane. So let's draw Pyrogoyf. 4, 5, 6, 7. I have a couple, like I can Pyrogoyf into Barrowgoyf immediately this turn. I think I like getting my ring out of play though. Let's go 1, 2, 3, do this. This isn't lethal, right? No, this is not lethal. 6, 7, 8, plus 4, 12. Yeah, not lethal. Menace. Opponent goes to 14. There's already an artifact in graveyard for Pyrogoyf purposes. Throw the ring at it. Then this to face now. And then I have Barrowgoyf, trigger, off Pyrogoyf, plus throwing a 1 ring next turn. Alright, still got all this mana. More Pyrogoyf. Caves of Chaos Adventurer. Which creature does the damage? That creature deals damage equal to its power. Ooh, so does that mean that my Death Touch just kills that immediately? Seems like that's what that means. Yeah, I gained the life for that. Yeah, that's sick. I was not done playing cards yet. I was having fun. GG's though. All right, so we went positive sawing our creatures in half. What did we learn from this league here? Well, right at the end, we saw that if these goyfs have other keywords such as lifelink and death touch, that those are going to apply to the Pyrogoyf triggers that are generated when they enter play. So that's cool. That is a good bit of info. We had one of our opponents learn when state-based effects are checked. So that was cool. I think one of the things that we saw in this league was that Dark Ritual was not particularly good. Dark Ritual is meant to be this turn 2 play in this deck to power out these 12 cards. But the funny thing about Dark Ritual is that it doesn't actually ramp out these cards on turn 1 unless you are also using some other mana in addition to that, which kind of makes it awkward. Saw in Half had a very high ceiling and a very low floor. We had a monstrous game where we did Saw in Half, I think it was a Pyrogoyf, and get a bunch of triggers at the same time. Like that is cool, but it did not line up as many times as we might have hoped it would. The original version that Jack submitted did have Nethergoyfs in here as well, which would give us more Saw in Half targets, but I cut this from the deck because Nethergoyf only counts your graveyard, whereas these other goyfs are counting all of the graveyards, and I think that is a very big difference. We're not putting that many different creature types into our graveyard unless we have something like Fable of the Mirror Breaker looting to, you know, discard an extra enchantment or something like that. So ultimately, I think this one is a little clunky, and my primary question would be, why are you playing this as opposed to something like a red-green initiative deck list? And why don't we pull one of those up real quick just to look at that? So here's one from a random, somewhat recent challenge. This deck is playing some of the same sorts of cards, right? Like we have Caves of Chaos Adventure, we have Broadside, we have Fury. This could very easily be running something like the One Ring without changing the deck very much. But this deck is going to be smoother on the mana. You get a full 8 Spirit Guides here, you get the Chrome Mox here, you have Once Upon a Time to select 4 creatures. You could, I think, slot Pyrogoyf into this shell just very, very easily, and you don't run into some of that Dark Ritual awkwardness. Although possible, it's pretty difficult for you to end up with a mana configuration that is just like not casting your 4-drops. As a Dark Ritual deck, we can't do something like Cavernous Souls to cheat and just have additional copies of dual lands. I will say our 4 fair cards in the sideboard, along with the Dauthi Voidwalkers, really did some heavy lifting in this league. This is probably just an indication that like the Saw in Halves that are in the main deck should probably just be main deck removal of some kind. Like Saw in Half Pyrogoyf is super, super cool. Maybe you can run like one Cursed Mirror to copy the Pyrogoyfs while also being a mana rock to bridge, and a bunch of lightning bolts or something like that. I conceptually would like to say like maybe you can go down to 29 mana sources, but there were so many opening hands that I just couldn't keep because we are a 12 4-drop deck that also is playing some Furies. Broadside did some serious work, but there's also a lot of times where the broadsides aren't the best independent threats because you don't actually have things to throw. Saw in Halves, for example, aren't extra creatures that can just be thrown at face. Well, not directly. anyway. But this was a very enjoyable league. I think this is a good starting point. You are probably going to have a good time if you bring this to your FNM or whatever, but I am not anywhere near convinced that these numbers are right. Like, maybe you can play this as more aggro, play nether goyfs and stalactite stalkers. You start playing like some lightning bolts, some Mishra's baubles, lower your curve a bit, and the Barrowgoyf, Pyrogoyf, maybe just Caves of Chaos Adventurer stuff becomes your top end. Probably have to cut the broadsides if you're doing that. I think there's a bunch of ways that you can take this, but historically, Rakdos fair stuff, not the best in Legacy. But don't have your Pyrogoyfs yet. All I'm saying, TOAmagic.com, promo code ThrabenU. And folks, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day. And if you didn't throw me a like or a comment or something, would appreciate it. Algorithm could use a boost right now after a week off from the hurricane. See ya.